was
Good,
going
Charlie?
weeks. When was that time you recorded? Like 3 weeks ago?
You post the video me and Dylan did or no? That's what I thought.
You and Dylan always record and then it never gets posted. Okay. What episode is this?
4?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Back Pocket Podcast, and welcome to episode number 4. The Premier League is fully in swing, and we could not be happier. Keith McDermott, Charlie Nidell, Suraj Kadali, pack show for you guys today. We'll be going over some of the week 1, Matchweek 1, obviously the games, going over what we thought, some transfer rumors. Obviously, the transfer market is still wide open. A ton of deals are going on. And then at the end of the show, we'll be going over our picks and predictions for Matchweek 2. We have 9 games on the slate, so that will be very fun. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Put your picks down below, all the thoughts down below. Make sure you're following us. TikTok, Instagram, subscribe to the channel. Yeah. How do we feel, boys? Matchweek 1's over.
It was definitely an interesting
I would say not too many surprises.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think
I think we had a great match week. I think we got set up for the season really well.
Yeah.
I think we had some great matches. I think we had some disappointing matches, some disappointing results, but also it's the first week of the season, you know. Surprises are bound to happen. So
well said. But as always, make sure you guys follow along and we'll hop right into it. So obviously Liverpool fan, Chelsea fan here. And obviously best game of the match week was that game, in my opinion. I thought that game was absolutely fantastic, wide open. I think when you look at that game, and I loved how, because these are two teams that do not, they still have a lot of kind of gelling to do. They don't know what their starting 11 is going to be. So I think they were experimenting with things. The game was super wide open. I thought it was very attacking. And even though it was 1-1, could have been 2-2. Obviously, Chelsea at the end of the game could have scored several goals. So it was obviously just a really good game. And I think it was what we kind of expected. And as a Liverpool fan, I was like, okay, I think Liverpool could take this. Chelsea, obviously, we saw the turmoil they were in last year, but Chelsea looked fantastic. What do we think of this game, especially because, and we'll get into this next, just obviously the transfer, just insanity that's been going on between the two clubs. But I'll go to you, Charlie, first. As a Chelsea fan, how did you feel about that game? Because it really set the tone, I think, for Chelsea.
yeah, this is the best I've seen Chelsea play in over a year.
Yeah.
This was I think personally we were unlucky not to get the win.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool only had one shot on goal all game. It happened to go in the back of the net. That's how it goes. I think that Chelsea were the better side. Again, only 4 shots on goal from Chelsea, so it wasn't some massively dominated game. I'm pretty sure the XG was within 0.1 of a point. It was really close, but Chelsea looked dominant, 65% of the ball. I think where we really thrived was in the midfield. Enzo Fernandez looked unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think he let a lot of people down in the last 6 months when he joined in January. I think he looked good at the second half of the season for us, but he looked even better the other day. I think watching that game, it was very clear to me exactly what Liverpool needed. And that was Moises Caicedo. It was glaringly obvious that Liverpool were missing Caicedo. Chelsea also looked like they were missing that a little bit, but I actually think Gallagher, if he did one thing well the other day,
great
it was
defending.
his defensive work.
Yeah.
He looked fantastic. He stopped Salah from getting a counterattack, which would have put him through on goal one-on-one. He looked really good defensively. He's looked really good all preseason defensively, and he showed it in the first game. Enzo was, for me, the man of the match. I also really loved the way that Levi Colwill and Axel Disasi played. I think Colwill was thrust into a really hard role for his first game for Chelsea. No matter how good you are as a center back, to defend Mo Salah, who is one of the best wingers in the world, one-on-one for the entire game, he's going to give you trouble. We saw that happen once or twice. Salah obviously had the assist for the Luis Diaz goal, and then was put through on goal for a second goal, which was called offside. But Colwill, throughout the entire second half, locked down Salah. Salah was then taken out of the game because he had no effect in the second half. He was very mad about that. Disasi scored the equalizer, obviously, for Chelsea in his debut. He looked really good defensively, scored the equalizer. But I think the bigger thing between these teams, as it was a really good game, was that transfer saga, the Caicedo, and the fact that Lavia chose Chelsea over Liverpool. As a Chelsea fan, I don't really know why we went after Lavia after getting Caicedo. It's a depth piece. But I think Liverpool clearly need one of those two guys. And I don't know what they're going to do without one.
Yeah, I think it was, like you said, I don't think this was a very complicated game to kind of break down. I think for Chelsea, obviously, what has constantly been why they've been successful, I think a huge reason why they won that Champions League is getting those outside back up and they just spread Liverpool. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, for the life of me, over and over again, just doesn't check his shoulder. He always has a man behind his back, never knows he's there. So I think that causes a ton of problems. Chilwell was fantastic. Reece James was fantastic as his first game for captain. And yeah, again, I think we saw the Pochettino plan go into place a little more. We saw obviously a team that could keep the ball, was attacking-wise very good. Nicholas Jackson, fantastic signing. I was talking to Charlie, just, of course, out of the $1 billion that Chelsea have spent, the one guy who we don't really know too much about was like $30 million, and he was fantastic. Really, really good player. I love he added something to Chelsea that they just haven't had for the past year and a half. And even the Champions League, just the runs he makes, speedy, can hold on to the ball. Obviously, we saw what he did at the end of the game to hold off Konate, took it from just outside Chelsea's box into Liverpool's box, and obviously they didn't get that goal, but super pleasantly surprised by Disasi. Obviously, he was very good. Although I guess that goal he got caught. It's one of Liverpool. I will say Liverpool. Obviously, the midfield's a problem with that attack. It's just like the great teams, they get a chance and they score, and that's what Liverpool did. And that pass by Salah was just phenomenal, fantastic. So yeah, I think obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought Szoboszlai was fantastic. I think he will be a starter, and I was definitely questioning that. I actually didn't think he would start the game. And McAllister was good, obviously. I think he was in and out, more out towards the end of the game, but obviously he had that pass that set up the goal. Gakpo never is going to play in the midfield again. He was terrible. Gakpo played very bad. And yeah, it's very simple. The glaring hole is a 6. So I think we need to figure that out because I think that genuinely could be the difference between us making Champions League, contending for the title, and just ending like we did last year. But fantastic game. I love those key matchups or those marquee games at the beginning of the Premier League season because it was fireworks.
Yeah, I think I didn't watch the first half, but when I watched the second half, what it seemed like to me is that I actually didn't think it was a great game from either team. I think it was definitely a lot of individual quality, but I think like both of you have reiterated, the lack of a 6 was huge for either team. We really saw that it was obviously much tougher to control the game, and the reason why Chelsea were able to kind of in the second half really have that control is because they had Enzo Fernandez, and even though they didn't have that 6,
and I thought Chukwuemeka was very good.
Chukwuemeka, I really liked.
Pleasant surprise.
I think they really were able to have a much firmer grasp on the game than Liverpool were, and I think especially now that they've got Caicedo and Lavia, they could really pose a real challenge to any team in the league now with that midfield. But I just think Liverpool really they need to get a 6. Like desperately need to get a 6 because McAllister. I actually thought McAllister wasn't that bad though. I thought he was.
No, yeah, it's just
that he's not a 6,
and it's just exerted no control over the game.
And
exactly.
it's like Enzo last year. Like he didn't have a 6, and he was forced to play in a role that he can do. But you get so much more out of a McAllister and an Enzo when they can play as an 8 and kind of move throughout the field and don't have to worry about getting back defensively. We even saw with McAllister, he was stuck behind so much. Exactly, and he was obviously tracking back a lot. And I almost thought put Szoboszlai at 6. Like he was winning the ball. He was winning the ball a lot. Like he looked great, fast.
I think that the match ratings didn't really show it, but I thought Szoboszlai was the best Liverpool player.
Oh, he was fantastic.
The other day. His match rating wasn't super high on FotMob. I was looking at OneFootball. He didn't get that super high of a match rating, but for me, he was the best Liverpool player on the field.
Yeah, I agree.
And of all their players, he looked like he could play 6. I know he's a very good attacker, but he's physical, he's aggressive, he was winning the ball
pressing. I mean,
left and right.
Stamina is like unlimited.
He is the definition of a Klopp player.
Yeah, just his stamina is just like it makes sense why they got him. Like looking at that game made sense.
And then the last point I'll make is I think that the point you were bringing up about Nicholas Jackson making the runs in behind, he's a strong, fast player. I mean, he ran 60 yards with Konate on his back shoulder.
He should have scored. Should have scored twice, arguably.
And then he made a great pass to Mudryk, who just forced it a little bit too wide. But I think that the reason Nicholas Jackson could succeed in this Chelsea team is the last player that we had that looked a little bit like him is Timo Werner. And I think that we kept the wrong German when we sold Timo Werner and kept Kai Havertz because what Kai Havertz added to this team was a vertical threat. We haven't had that at Chelsea. All the last 2 seasons, we haven't had a vertical threat. And that was Timo Werner. He made his deep runs in behind. No one could keep up with him because he's so fast. He struggled with finishing. Nicholas Jackson, throughout preseason, in his time with Villarreal, hasn't struggled with finishing. He missed a big chance against Liverpool.
Yep, big one.
It was his first ever Premier League game, so I'm just going to look past it. If he can start scoring, this is a guy we could see get 15 goals this year, 20 goals this year, because with the service from Enzo, Reece James, Ben Chilwell, Mykhailo Mudryk, Christopher Nkunku when he comes back, there are a lot of quality players that can get him the ball in really good positions, and he knows how to get himself into good positions. So if he can finish, we could see one of the top goal scorers.
Yeah, and he was just working hard. Like, you could tell. Like, it's kind of, it's one of those players where you look at them, you're like, yeah, that he had an impact on that game. And again, I agree with you. Regardless of whatever the scoring and stuff like that, I think, take that how you will. But again, that'll maybe it was the pressure, whatever it was. But again, I think obviously great game, but still it was those little mistakes. And I think it was more on Liverpool's side, just the passing the ball too hard. That Nunez should have scored, but McAllister just hits it too hard. Nunez also bad touch, but just there was those little things. And again, also in the beginning of the game, Liverpool would counter. And I remember the pass got back to Salah. It was just too far behind. And it's those Liverpool things where when we won the title, those would not happen. Like, it was pinpoint passing, one chance. Our counter, Liverpool were one of the best counterattacking teams ever. That Premier League win, just with that front three, it was just if they were on the counterattack, they would score. So again, it's those touch-ups like that. Do you contribute that to the service from the midfield? Again, it was kind of like that. But I think it was a very spacey game because there was just so much. If Szoboszlai goes up, Gakpo goes up, there's space in behind.
There was a lot of space, and that's what a player like Moises Caicedo prevents. Whenever there's space, Caicedo finds it and tackles anyone in that area.
Exactly.
He's possibly one of the most physical players in the world. His tackling ability is unreal.
I mean, you look at
so strong.
A replacement for Conte. It's same size.
Caicedo.
And again, when
he's
Liverpool
also great
were
going forward as well, like kind of like has that ability.
Yeah, Conte
also.
in his later career started to get really good progressing the ball. Caicedo can do that. It's one of his very underrated qualities. He's known as a ball winner, and he does that excellently, brilliantly well. And he can also progress the ball up the field.
And we'll talk about Caicedo now because obviously that's kind of the next thing we're going to talk about. It's just it's one of those things where obviously when Liverpool were supposed to get him and they agreed to a fee, and I was like, okay, I'm going to watch some Caicedo highlights, and it's just tackles. Like, I thought it was going to be like passing, maybe some goals, but it was just tackle. Like, it was just consistent, really, really good, smart guy. And he's one of those guys where it's not like there's a big difference between a like Sergio Ramos Pepe tackle where they just destroy the player. Like, he curls his leg, gets the ball. Like, it's one of those tackles where he contains possession with it. He's not like brutally hitting the guy while still getting the ball. It's not like a center back tackle.
He does
you know
do
what
that,
I mean?
though.
He does also, but I'm saying he picks his moments. If it's going out of bounds, he'll just hit the tackle. But it's like in the middle of the park, he just is able to get the ball and contain possession, which I think is so key. A player like there's obviously destroyers who just get hit it. Dispossess the player, but someone who's able to dispossess and keep the ball, I think is incredibly important. And then also Lavia, who I agree with you, I haven't understand Chelsea's just where they're at with signings, because I feel like they'll sign a player and then sign another guy who's the same position. It's like I don't understand what they're doing there, but I guess you talked about depth, so it makes kind of sense. Lavia's a great player. But I didn't completely understand that. I love to. Well, I guess
we also forget Romeo Lavia is only 18 years old.
19
years old. So he is still an unproven player. He had one great season with Southampton. He was very good last season, but he is a depth piece. Caicedo and Enzo.
Caicedo will start.
As much as I love them, the two of them are going to start.
Yeah,
every single game.
Yep. Well, every game.
I think
Chukwuemeka
has a very strong.
Be able to start every single game. Is what I mean. So every game that they're fit and able, they will start.
Yes.
But obviously playing 38 games in a season is a stretch for everybody. So Lavia
not as much as a stretch as last season though, with no European football.
European football is great, but FA Cup, EFL Cup, this is, you need a bench piece. Also, I could see games where all three of them start with the injury to Nkunku. Chukwuemeka impressed
I really
me
liked him. I thought
he is great.
Where did you guys sign him from?
Brighton or Aston Villa. Sorry.
Oh, right.
Came from Aston Villa last season. I was kind of surprised at the time, but he is a really good player. I always forget that he's not one of the youth kids that came up from Chelsea. He was starting at Aston Villa when we signed him, and I think he.
I could see like the main lineup being Caicedo, Enzo, and Chukwuemeka, but I can also see games. I think in games where they're playing against, say, I don't know, Manchester City or an Arsenal, where they really want to try and exert as much control as possible. You could see all three of them starting exactly. But I think another player that really is interesting that I think Chelsea have just signed. They did just sign Elise, right? No.
It'll happen. They triggered it.
It's a really good one.
I think I could see him playing as the 10.
I can see Elise as the 10. What we need right now, and you could see the holes in our team were the 10 and right wing.
Yeah.
Because where Raheem Sterling played at right wing,
and Kunku will
I don't
easily
want to see him play there again.
I thought he wasn't that bad.
I thought
he wasn't
I was
that bad.
so frustrated watching Raheem Sterling.
I didn't think he was. Yeah, I didn't think he was that bad.
What Pochettino is trying to build is a youthful,
I do
pressing,
yeah, I do see that.
Excited to play, high energy team. And Sterling was the one exception to that of the 11 Chelsea starters.
On the ball, I thought he was good, but
Yeah, I
actually
actually would
thought
disagree with that.
Sterling went against everything we were trying to do with the ball. Sterling, every time he got the ball, was so regressive with the ball. He would get the ball on a counterattack and stop, and he would slow us down and make a pass backwards, which sometimes is the right thing. But we watched Mykhailo Mudryk in preseason. We watched Noni Madueke last year. Every time they were on the ball, they were looking to take on the defenders. We saw that Mudryk came on, and he was looking to take on defenders. He wasn't always able to. He would go backwards sometimes.
But also that
he
kind
was
of
looking to attack, which Raheem Sterling was not looking to do. I think Elise fits both the 10 and the right wing position. I think we were also looking at someone like Ryan Cherky to play there, who does both of those jobs really well. So I think that Elise is a really good replacement, and I think he's going to give Madueke a total run for his money. Right now, Madueke is out injured.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I was like, why
did
did he play?
Elise play the 10 and Madueke play on the right.
I thought Elise's out. I think Elise's out injured right now.
I don't know about Elise, but we can also see Nkunku when he comes back play the 10 and Elise on the right. We can see Nkunku on the right and Elise at the 10.
Nkunku's going to start.
Fill that hole.
And Nkunku will start.
Was probably I think he was probably your best player.
This is the top name on the clean sheet, Christopher Nkunku. This guy is going to play week in, week out.
Yeah, great player.
But I think Elise is a great signing because he takes that role that Raheem Sterling, in my opinion, is doing such a horrible job at. I know you didn't think he looked great, but for me, he was so frustrating to watch because he just didn't move forward. And as a winger on a high-energy team, the goal is to move forward. He also, I don't know if you saw it, defensively, he would just stand there. He has no work rate.
I saw that, but I thought maybe the second half, I guess I wasn't paying as much attention to Sterling, but the first half, I thought he got into the box. I thought he was, again, I guess maybe I wasn't paying full attention, but I thought Sterling, I definitely wouldn't say he played awful. I wouldn't say he was one of the standout guys, but I don't think he was regressive per se. I thought he got the ball into the box, at least in the first 20 minutes.
And also, you can't... I do understand your point with Mudryk and Madueke always taking on their man, but at the same time, sometimes you do also need to recycle possession.
No, that's not what I mean by always taking on their man. Mudryk and Madueke, when they get the ball, they're not always moving forward. They're always looking to move forward. The first option is always to go forward. Like it just is. When you get the ball, you're trying to get to the opponent's goal. That's just what you're trying to do. And Mudryk, you could see every time he was on the ball the other day, he would pick his head up, look for where his defenders are, look for where the attackers are, and see if he could go forward. Sometimes he was able to, sometimes he wasn't, and he would turn around and he would go backwards, or he would play a pass into the midfield. Sterling, when he got the ball, it looked like he wasn't even trying to go forward. It looked like he was resigned to his fate of he was having to go backward, and that was just it. He has no work rate, and Pochettino needs 11 players with work rate for this team to work.
And I actually understand that, but I don't mean to kind of switch the topic, but back to kind of the midfielder thing at Chelsea. You look at a guy like Ugachukwu, who obviously didn't play, but I think has the profile, like he's 6'3". I don't know if you got big dude. He's a really big dude. I know Chelsea were, I think, planning on loaning him out.
Yeah, that's why they're
I think they still might.
Yeah, they still might. Obviously, you have Andre
Santos
Santos now, who they were like, okay, I think we're going to keep him.
They did already loan out Caicedo.
Yeah, Caicedo, which makes a ton of sense. But I guess, Charlie, what do you think about two guys like that who are kind of in the third line of midfielders? Because, I don't know. I thought, from what I've seen from Ugachukwu at Rennes, great player. Again, really good defensive midfielder, knows how to hold the game. And then, obviously, Andre Santos, I think a creative player, kind of more of a Enzo Fernandez mold. Not a 6, I mean, like an 8. So I just, what do you think they'll do there? Because I don't think there's enough playing time this year for guys like them.
Yeah, this was the part that almost more so surprised me about the Lavia deal. I think Ugachukwu just signed for about 20-odd million from Rennes. And I think he's not a Premier League ready player. I think I would have really liked the loan out to Strasbourg that they were arranging. Obviously, Boli bought Strasbourg recently, so they're now partner clubs or whatever.
Oh, right.
So the loan out there would have made a lot of sense. Back to Ligue 1, it just would have made sense.
Yeah.
It surprises me because I don't think there is a lot of playtime in this team now because with Caicedo and Lavia as our 6s, there's no... Like, your third-string 6 doesn't play a lot.
And your third-string 6 is not even starting in, like, a Carabao Cup. He's probably getting subbed on in the Carabao Cup.
And I think Andre Santos really impressed me in preseason. As a 6 and as an 8, I think he was really good on the ball, really good as a ball winner, but also not Premier League ready. I think he needs one more season as either the backup or on loan to a smaller Premier League
maybe
team
championship
or
team.
a Ligue 1 or a Serie A team.
Yeah.
But I think that it's really interesting. I think that Caicedo and Lavia are the clear options 1 and 2. And then with Ugachukwu and Andre Santos, one of them will go out on loan, I think.
Yeah.
They should. One
I'd
of them
hope,
go out on loan. And then one of them gets cup games. One of them comes off the bench in not close
Yeah.
games. I mean, we saw Ugochukwu come off the bench yesterday or on Sunday against Liverpool.
Did he?
Yeah, he played about 15 minutes against
Yeah,
Liverpool.
less than 15. I feel
He
like.
didn't play
Wait,
a lot.
did he?
He
I
played
didn't
a
know.
few
I did not
minutes.
see that.
He played
Oh.
a few minutes against Liverpool,
I
but
didn't even know that. I thought
obviously
he
that
did.
was without Caicedo and Lavia rostered.
Yeah.
So I think it is what it is.
Because Caicedo is going to be starting this week.
Yes, I mean
Like,
we
he
have
will
a
be.
plethora of young talent at that center mid spot. Just not a lot of Premier League ready young talent.
And you have Gallagher
It's
there
Caicedo,
also.
Enzo are the two who are proven in the Premier League,
Yeah.
are gonna be the starters
Lavia.
this year. But then Lavia, Andre Santos, Ugochukwu, Caicedo,
Yeah.
all needed maybe a loan out, maybe just to sit for a season.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of talent in the
I think
midfield.
Lavia will stay.
Lavia's
Lavia
definitely
will
gonna
stay, but he needs
Obviously,
to
they
sit for
sign
a
him for
season. He needs
50.
to be the backup for the season.
Yeah,
I think he's
yeah,
not
yeah.
ready to play at Chelsea.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. We'll move on, though, to our next topic, and we'll get into kind of some of the games. So, obviously, this is the most recent game. Man United obviously face off against Wolves. Varane gets the late winner. Man United don't look great,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's kind of a trend with United the first game of the season.
No, I think they did actually lose their first game. To
So
Bayern Munich.
I think for them it makes sense. I'm almost more surprised by Wolves. I think a team where a lot of people are like, okay, it's about time that they go down. Obviously, I thought they played well. They should have had a penalty. No matter what you say, that was obviously a penalty. And obviously you can't really argue with that because the refs are now not going to be reffing in Matchweek 2. But I guess whatever about Wolves. If you want to touch about Wolves, you can. But just about United, how they started. Obviously, they played a 4-2-3-1. And Charlie, when we were talking about Mount, and we did, I think it might have been the first episode when we went to United, it was like, okay, this guy cannot be playing as like a defensive 8. And obviously he
doesn't have
went
the
up
work
the
rate for
field.
it.
He doesn't have the work rate. But you look at the starting lineup when it comes out and he's playing as a 6 basically. Not a 6, I guess an 8, but it's him, Casemiro, Bruno.
I mean,
And again, I guess he could play as that 8, but I think it makes more sense for United to go Casemiro, Bruno, Mount, and have Bruno more as in my opinion, is more the sitting back guy.
I think watching that game, it actually was both of them played very high, both Mount and Bruno.
I know they.
I think the problem was that it made them very vulnerable on the counter. Like Casemiro, he had to fight off so many of the Wolves players going forward.
Luckily, it's
Whether it was
Casemiro, so
it
he's
is
probably one of the
Casemiro,
only
but
he
guys.
didn't do a great job of it.
I didn't even think he did that great of a job. But at the same time, it was a losing battle from the beginning because he had to go against Cunha, he had to go against Lamina, he had to go against Mateus Nunes, he had to go against Pedro João Gomez. It was. I mean, obviously there were more defenders there, but he was like easily like the furthest back midfielder by a mile. And Mount and Bruno, I understand why they want to get their 2 10s into kind of advanced position so they can kind of find that ball into the area, which makes sense. But at the same time, it wasn't really what I anticipated. I thought Mount would be playing a little bit deeper and kind of in that makeshift kind of advanced, like kind of not a makeshift 8 role where kind of he isn't as much of a controller, but he's a really good ball progressor. But I thought he'd start off a little bit deeper, help up with that build up. But they just looked very, very disoriented. It didn't look like there was really a lot of cohesion. And to be honest, very lucky to get a winner. I think honestly, based on the run of play, Wolves should have won that game. But at the very least, they should have gotten a point. I think it was a very lucky result. I was watching it with my brother, who's a United fan, and it was frustrating for him the whole game because they weren't stringing anything together.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from maybe a few moments, that attack looked toothless. Garnacho, he's not a starter. He looked
Garnacho is so good though.
I think he's
good, but he looked very poor first match day.
Yes.
Anthony wasn't great either. Rashford is not a 9.
So bad.
Yeah, Charlie hates Anthony.
Awful.
Charlie hates Anthony.
No, and they can't have Rashford as a 9 because he just wasn't involved in the play.
Yeah, Hodgson needs to start. I think
I would
Haaland
say,
needs to start
Hoyland's injured. I would play Sancho.
Right.
I would play Sancho as the false 9 because in preseason that's what they were doing, and I thought that worked pretty well. I just don't see why Rashford can't play as a 9.
But for me, Rashford's the best option at 9
because he has games where he's good there.
Because if I'm Manchester United, the one player in the attack who I'm really looking forward to is Alejandro Garnacho. I know he didn't look good this weekend. I know he didn't, but he's one of the best young players in the world. If I was making an 11 for under 20s, Garnacho is in that team every single day. Garnacho is so good that I don't want Rashford on the left. I want Garnacho there.
No, he was. I think that first game against Wolves it was just very disappointing. He couldn't beat his man 1-on-1. He wasn't really even making the right decisions.
Yes, he was poor. He
was poor. I think he was poor all around. And I think a lot of times when you do see him really be successful, I think it's also partly that he is really, in my opinion, the perfect super sub. He's someone that
I agree.
can like challenge the winger challenge the fullback one-on-one with obviously who has tired legs at that point. And he's a very good dribbler, very skilled, but as a starter, he wasn't at it. And I think we haven't seen him really enough as a starter, like play well to justify him really being that starting left winger, especially when Rashford, whenever he starts, he's just really good at playing kind of off of the fullback and kind of cutting inside and making those perfectly timed runs. And I think you need someone, at least for Ten Hag, someone who can really operate as someone who can be a hold-up guy, who can play with his back to goal, or someone who has a false nine who can offer like kind of an extra guy in midfield and maybe let Mount or Bruno drop a little bit further back and kind of.
But Højlund's not
better.
that.
No, yeah, exactly.
He's fast. He make runs in behind.
But Højlund is also a good in terms of link up with his back goal. So I think he would still be much better than Rashford in that situation. I think Sancho would be good as a false nine in that situation. Rashford, in my opinion, doesn't really make sense because he's just his best trait is running in behind, but I don't think he's going to contribute enough
and
to that link up. Exactly, which is I think obviously on the left he's really good.
To briefly touch on Wolves, though, I think the reason that Garnacho struggled so much was Nelson Semedo was fantastic.
Nelson Semedo had a very good game. I was surprised.
Very, very good. He had Garnacho in check. He had Rashford at times in check. He had Mason Mount in check because he was working a little bit off that left-hand side. Nelson Semedo was fantastic. That's why Garnacho didn't play so well. Obviously, if Garnacho had played amazingly, Nelson Semedo wouldn't have been fantastic. But Semedo dominated that matchup. Wolves, my problem with Wolves, I think they played really, really well.
They played really well.
And
no end product.
The problem you were talking about with, Casemiro being the only six, it bit them in the ass because I think Lisandro Martinez picked up an early yellow card, and then Cunha made the fantastic run through the midfield where Martinez was about to take him down, but he couldn't because it would have been a second yellow card and a sending off. He ran straight through Martinez and Casemiro. It was a 3-on-2 for Wolves. They didn't score. The problem for Wolves, and the reason I think they're going down, is because no matter how good of a performance they put in a great performance against a Big Six club and didn't score. You can't not score.
I see that.
With those chances.
I do see that. But at the same time, I think they're going to have, if that's the chances they're getting against Manchester United, who did keep the most clean sheets, I believe, in the league last year, they're going to create even more chance against other teams. So they're going to be able to.
I think
they won't. I don't think they'll go down.
No, but I think the reason Wolves created so many chances was because Manchester United looked so bad.
They did look bad.
For me, and I was talking to a friend of mine from England who is a Manchester United fan. We both agreed that Manchester United, of all 20 teams in the Premier League, were the worst of all 20 in Matchweek 1. The fact that they got a win is ridiculous.
They're there. They're around there.
For me, Manchester United, I watched Luton all 10 matches. United were either 19th or 20th with Luton Town.
Yeah.
This was a horrible match. As my friend described it, this was prime Ole ball. They were terrible.
I think Ole ball. I mean, at least prime Ole ball was better than that. I think
prime Ole ball meaning terrible United, not best Ole, meaning worst Ole. This was a shambolic performance from United. The fact that they were able to get a win is so undeserved. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
The penalty in the 96th minute was so deserved for Wolves. It was. It would have been the perfect way for Wolves to cap off a good performance. And the perfect way for United to cap off a bad performance. I think it would have been so unbelievably deserved for Wolves to get that penalty and score it. I think after watching that game, Wolves deserved the win in that one. I think it should have been a 1-0 Wolves win, if anything. They didn't look great in front of goals, so there was that. But I think this was such a ridiculously bad performance from United, and I don't really know where it went wrong. They just didn't look really good anywhere.
Like they didn't. I didn't see any cohesion.
Structurally, it was just all wrong. It was bad.
Something has to change. I think another team we're gonna harp on in a bit. At least I'm very high on Tottenham, they're gonna play them next week. I think Tottenham kind of looked the opposite of that. And if they play any way they played against Wolves, I think they could really be in for a shock next week. But that was
so do we want to move on to Tottenham?
We have Arsenal.
We'll move on to Arsenal and City. Obviously, both get a win. And I guess talking about kind of the title challenge, obviously City, kind of news for both teams. City, obviously, Haaland story, classic Haaland, 2 goals. I will say, Man City fans, Burnley looked like the better team, I would say, for more of the game. I think for more of the game, Burnley looked like the better team against Man City. They looked high energy. They kept the ball. They were getting chances on goal. I thought Burnley looked great. And again, both of you guys are like, oh, Burnley are going to get top 14. I was like, guys, I don't understand that. I don't know if people are saying that. am fully believing in that now. Burnley looked great. I think they took the game to United, and I think they knew they had to do that. Or it's not to United, to City, excuse me. So again, I was super happy with Burnley. I think there's always that one relegation team that does extremely well, like Fulham last year. And I think Burnley to me could definitely be that team.
Yeah, I think Burnley, their problem, same as Wolves, was their end product.
Yeah, exactly. But it makes
they're gonna lose this game if they don't finish.
No, exactly. And I think they knew they were.
I don't even think they were as bad though in terms of end product as Wolves were.
No, but they didn't score.
But exactly.
So it was, you can't beat City without scoring.
Yeah,
obviously. And I do agree though. Burnley looked really good. I'm really excited to see what Burnley's got this season. I think I have them finishing 12th. I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I think they'll be great. Again, it's just a team that doesn't have those flashy players, but is very good together. I think they have actually, in my opinion, decent depth. I thought some of the players they brought on were very good. So again, very happy with them. And obviously Arsenal, when you look at kind of what they did, obviously 2 huge losses. Jurriën Timber, like devastating. Torn ACL, will be out. I mean, people say 6-7 months. He probably will be out for the season. And then Kevin De Bruyne with the hamstring injury, he'll be out for City. So again, 2 big ones, because now that opens, if you're not as much for Arsenal because of Timber, but actually, I mean, I guess it is, because you look at the glaring problem for Arsenal last year is they would have won the title if Saliba had not gotten injured. I'm fully believer in that. So again, their insurance was Jurriën Timber, because now if another one of those backline goes down, it's back to Rob Holding or Kiwi, or God help us all. So that's kind of the thing. Obviously for City, Kevin De Bruyne, I don't think, obviously City will be affected. I think they can manage. You have Bernardo Silva is going to stay. Kyle Walker's going to stay. Foden's going to stay. I think Cole Palmer is going to be getting a lot more minutes now.
I think Foden will play as the 10.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they will be
They might be signing Paqueta also.
Yeah, Paqueta they might get. So I think City will be okay. But again, when we kind of look at the title race, 2 of the teams, people are either picking City or Arsenal. Like the majority of soccer fans. So I guess when you kind of look at how these 2 teams played, where do you think this kind of sets them up for the rest of the season?
Arsenal were a bit. I think they were really good in the first half. I mean, I think they struggled a bit with creation, but they seemed to always have like a good foothold for most of the game. Like for the first 80 minutes, they seemed all over Forest. Forest really, their game plan was just to sit back, close the spaces. But obviously, when you have players the quality of Martinelli and Saka, like Martinelli with that first assist was incredible. That was incredible, and then obviously Saka's goal was amazing as well. But they didn't really create a lot, but they were always like kind of in Forest's half, always threatening. And I think they're going to be obviously when Jesus gets back, when Zinchenko gets back, and those are 2 players that they also really need to stay healthy. I think it's just
very similar of last season. No Jesus, so Nketiah starting. You have one of the starting defenders injured.
Yeah. But in the first half, they looked
great. And Nketiah is a serviceable player. Nketiah can go and play. You have Trossard who can play as the 9 if need be. Yeah. So I think they will be okay. And then but again, Jesus and them is just like the health thing is.
But when Timber went down and they had to put in Tomiyasu, I think that was a huge blow. They really looked a lot less in control. They seemed, and especially those last 80 minutes, once they conceded that goal, they seemed to really be put under a lot of pressure. Forest really went for it. Arsenal didn't really look that great, and that's something they're really going to need to shore up. And that really kind of shows that I think they need Zinchenko, especially with Timber being down, because now I think the only other option you have for that inverted fullback, which is key for Arsenal, is probably Thomas Partey, who could maybe play inverted right back like we saw match day 1. But I think that health is going to be huge for them. But I think they looked good for most of the game. And then as for City, again, we talked about that. Burnley looked really good the first 45 minutes, but the difference was that City are just, whenever they have a chance, they have Erling Haaland, and that is just you need to be clinical in title races. And I think what we saw for City was more of the same, that they can, when they get their chances, they're going to score and they're going to create a lot of chances. And it wasn't a great performance. They really, especially the first half, they looked like a lot of moments where they were being really careless and sloppy with the ball. But I think overall they still exerted control. I think the main thing is that they got better as the game went on. I think that second half they really just slammed the door shut really for Burnley, and it was the performance that says, that's why they've won the league 3 years in a row. But I think Arsenal looked really good for the first half, but they need to really kind of focus on closing out games.
Yeah, I think for me, it's sort of a recap of what you said. I think Arsenal were fantastic in the first 45 against Nottingham. Now, I think Nottingham is one of the worst teams in the league. I have them going down in 19th place this year.
Yeah, agreed.
But Arsenal, I'm going to chalk up the chance creation issues to the fact that there was no Gabriel Jesus in that team. Gabriel Jesus is the main creator through the middle of the field for them. When he gets the ball, he makes 3 people miss, then scores a goal. I also think Balogun would have been a better option to
I don't know. Yeah,
I think Balogun's leaving it.
I think Balogun will be going out on loan though. So there's that.
I think he's going to leave. I think he's going to leave. I think he's going to.
But I think that
Inter pulled out. I think it'll be Monaco.
But I think that for Arsenal, they looked unbelievable in the first 45 minutes. They looked like clear title favorites from their 45. They were dominating Nottingham with, I think, around 80% of possession in the first half.
86%, something like that.
It was fantastic. Saka looked great. Martinelli looked great. Defensively, they were strong. In the midfield, they were strong. Then there was the second half, which was a totally different story. I think they fell off a cliff in the second half. Almost tied that game.
Timber. That's why I thought Timber.
They looked like end of season Arsenal, where they almost just gave away a late goal. It was a fantastic goal from Nottingham. The run through the midfield, the run was fantastic.
Awoniyi, I think, will probably leave if he continues to score.
I don't remember who it was who made the run.
Elanga, I think.
Elanga.
Oh, it was Elanga.
Anthony Elanga picks up
was.
the ball and runs about 70 yards through the Arsenal midfield, through the Arsenal back line, plays a great cross in, and it's a good finish from Awoniyi. And then they looked like they could score again. Arsenal fell apart in the last 15 minutes in particular. For City, it was an underwhelming performance. They won 3-0.
But it was
there's not much you can say about it.
Underwhelming, but it's still comfortable.
But this was, I think it's just, with Haaland on this field, Rodri is the best defensive midfielder in the world right now. And it's not close right now. Rodri also, as a 27-year-old, looks better and better every single game he plays for City. This is why I think, obviously you never want to be sloppy, but they can afford to be sloppy in the attack because Rodri will snuff it out instantly.
I will say, though, the impact of a Rodri injury for City would be the same as a Saliba injury for Arsenal.
Yeah, that would be
because
Rodri
behind
would be
them
huge.
That would be devastating for them and he's playing like every important game. He's playing like a lot.
And you gotta put Stones. You would put Stones in there.
Rodri scores the winner in the Champions League final.
Yeah,
this is not just your typical defensive midfielder. No. This is the best center mid in the world. And he plays defensive mid. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think it's just like it's just Haaland is it's like it's so casual now. Just all the goals, and you see the goal he scored bar down. All the City players are like they just like it's like
you give him half a yard of space and he's gonna score.
Yeah, it's like every game it's like okay he won't do it. Like he's gonna have a bad game, and it's just every game.
That second goal he just swung at it.
And it's just like
it's not much space. It's perfect.
That's why I think it's so hard to be as clinical as him, and that's why that's why they're so sought after. Like players like Harry Kane, player like Lewandowski, player like Haaland, because it's literally like a chance goal, and it changes the whole game. So obviously huge, and I think again 2 teams who still look like they will contend. We'll move on to the next one. That's Spurs. Played Brentford, tied. Looked all right. Couple new signings. New Vicario starting. Obviously, a Van de Ven, and then Romero goes off. They have to put in Davidson Sanchez, who I haven't seen play in like 2 years. But again, a lot of pros, a lot of cons. I think Madison was very good. Their new number 10. Udogie, their left back, very, very good. Good defensively. I think a guy who was able to handle Mbeumo, who I think is a fantastic player. Brentford looked good as well. Obviously, come back into the game, down 1-0, go up 2-1. So I think for Spurs, though, it's still the Harry Kane, I think, the hole of that Harry Kane left, I think, is still there. I think they would have won that game if they had Harry Kane. I think Son didn't look great.
Yeah, he didn't look great.
Richarlison, again, not all right. So again, I think Tottenham. It's the classic Tottenham for the past 2 years. It's like this team is just not a top 4 contender in my opinion.
I disagree. I actually think that Tottenham played much better than they've played in the past few years. I thought they were really good at exerting control. They did look defensively weak because obviously they were playing 2 inverted fullbacks with Udogie and Emerson Royale, but they looked very good in terms of exerting control. And Brentford is notoriously a very difficult place to play away. I saw a stat that they either were unbeaten in their last 15 away from at home, or either had only lost 1 of their last 15 at home. So they're very difficult places to play. Spurs kind of controlled the game. I think one of their goals was Brentford was very lucky. Deflection off Van de Ven just went over Vicario. I think they played well enough to win. They were more threatening in attack. They were really good. I thought Van de Ven, despite that deflection, I thought he played well. He was pretty secure. I think
He's fast.
He is very fast. That's going to be especially
against
for
Holland,
especially against those those backlines, especially against even next week against Rashford.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be huge. But I thought he was good. I think when Romero comes back, it'll definitely be a much better defensive line than Spurs have had the past few years. And I think it was a game where really it was kind of a paradox, where at the same time they played better without Harry Kane, but it wasn't because Harry Kane was missing. It was because people underestimated the impact of a new system, what would have. And I think Ange has done a really good job to start off with Spurs. They looked much more in control. They looked much better. But at the same time, funny enough, what they were missing was kind of a profile like Harry Kane, because Richarlison in that 9 role was not able really to
think
threaten
Spurs might get
defense.
Balogun. They're now reported.
I think Balogun is possible. I think Gift Orban I think he's on Genk. It's either on Genk or Ghent. Or I was like
the Belgian team. Genk,
yeah. So I think they need to sign a striker. Definitely someone that's a bit more physically imposing, because I think that's what they were missing. And Richarlison, again, just wasn't able to get into the game at all. Again, he could play better than he did against Brentford, but at the same time, it wasn't a great performance from, I think, really any of the attackers, bar Maddison. But I thought in terms of midfield, they were great, because Bissouma was wonderful. Maddison was great. Skip wasn't that great, but I think their defense, overall, also in terms of the ability to play out of the back, it was good. I thought.
Yeah.
I, weirdly enough, have to completely disagree with you here. I think Spurs, all the players looked pretty good.
Move on now to one of the last games, and obviously I think this was the most surprising outcome of the week, and obviously Newcastle, who beat Aston Villa 5-1. Obviously, two teams who are the two biggest up-and-comers in the Premier League, two teams who have absolutely transformed just their transfer pull, just where obviously two teams who are now in European football. And again, Newcastle dominated, and it was an interesting one, because I feel like Villa were there, I feel like, for the beginning of the game. And I think I don't know what it was, but it just fell apart. But Newcastle, man, they're a scary team. They're a fluid team, really good midfield, attacking wise. I think Alexander Isak could contend for top scorer. I think he might be second behind Haaland. He looked fantastic, composed. That chip finish was lovely, as they say in England. He was very, very good. I think he's kind of a very prototypical striker, can have his back to goal, great finishing. And then obviously Tonali gets a goal. Him and Guimaraes are going to be a fantastic midfield duo. And then, the back line held up. For Aston Villa, Diaby, debut goal. He's going to be very good. I think him and Leon Bailey is a scary duo up top or on those wings. But again, it was definitely an interesting one, because Unai Emery does not seem like a coach who would lose this game 5-1. He's generally, we obviously saw Villa's form at the end of the season. They were fantastic. So again, what do we think about that game?
Yeah, actually,
implications.
I did not get to watch that game, sadly. But
I didn't. I got to watch.
But
I watched. So.
But what I think Villa, I was really surprised is that Villa just got, not only they lost, but they got killed. And I have really high hopes for Villa. I have them finishing 6th in the league. Yeah, I really liked what they were doing. I really liked how they ended last season. I thought they were going to be stronger, and I thought Newcastle, I still think they're a really good team. I just thought that European football would be a lot for them.
They haven't started that yet.
They haven't started that yet. So again, that's why I was kind of thinking this could be a draw, close game. Maybe one team kind of ekes out a win. But no, Newcastle dominated that game, dominated the midfield, and I thought I was just really surprised by that. I think Villa's defense could be in a lot of trouble, especially if Tyrone Mings did tear his ACL. So
I don't think they're in that much trouble though with Pau Torres, Diego Carlos, and Darcy Konsa.
I do like Pau Torres. I think
on
the ball he's arguably one of the best center backs in the world in that category, but he isn't an imposing. I think Pau Torres and Tyrone Mings would have been a perfect duo, because Mings is that imposing center back. He's a bit
also both left-footed, left-sided center backs.
Mings is left-footed. No. Well, I still expected them to be the pair, but I think I thought Pau Torres. I thought that was Tyrone Mings' kind of his physicality was a really kind of would have been a good contrast to Pau Torres either way, but I think. Now with Torres, I think they do have Konsa. I do like Konsa. I do like Diego Carlos, although he is coming off a torn ACL or torn Achilles himself. Yeah. So it's, definitely I'm a bit concerned about that. I do still think they'll do really well this year. It's their first result, and sometimes Unai Emery-led teams can have freak bad results and then get back kind of humming the way they usually are, but definitely a very surprising result. But Charlie, I'll go to you since you watched the game.
Yeah, I watched this game, and honestly, as someone who also put Villa really high in the rankings, I'm not too worried. They looked strangely really not that bad for 5-1. Newcastle looked excellent. They were amazing on the ball. They had great finishers. There was nothing that Newcastle did wrong. But this was a super back and forth game. Villa had their chances. Moussa Diaby looked unbelievable on that right-hand side. His goal, he also probably should have had a second, which was a bit of poor finishing on his part. He picked the wrong spot at the goal. And I think Villa really didn't look that bad. Defensively, they were very susceptible on the counterattack. That's where Newcastle hit them for the most part. And for 5-1, it wasn't a 5-1 game. This was probably a 5-3 game, maybe a 4-2. Like, this was a high-scoring game. Both teams had their chances. Ollie Watkins didn't look great for Villa, but Newcastle were just so good, and Villa it wasn't their day.
Yeah.
They didn't look bad. Offensively, they looked good. The midfield, they didn't look bad. I think Boubacar Kamara was really disappointing for me. But I think that this is a team that's going to rebound. They're going to rebound well. They looked good going forward. Not great defensively. Tyrone Mings going down was part of that. I think they have the depth, though, there to back it up. I think Torres, Carlos, and Ezri Konsa are good enough center-back pairings that they'll be fine. I really think that Villa are still primed for big things this season. I think Newcastle are definitely primed for big things this season. This was not a 5-1 game.
Yeah. We'll move on now to the interesting part. Match week 2 picks, 2 games, Luton, and it's Burnley, I believe. Luton-Burnley postponed the relegation fight, but Charlie hit us off with the first match. We'll do quick picks.
First up, Nottingham host Sheffield United.
Ooh.
For me, this is a 0-0 draw.
Will not be watching that game. I think Nottingham each out a 1-0 win. I think Awani hits a goal.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same. 1-0 Nottingham. They'll scrape away with a win there.
Yeah, for me, this is a boring game. This is a 0-0.
Yeah, no, I can't tell you I'll be
1-1.
I can't tell you I'll be watching this whole game.
Next up, we have Fulham host Brentford.
Good game. I think that'll be an interesting game.
Like
2 similar teams. I think Fulham, obviously 1-0 win. I would give this to Brentford. I think Brentford take it 2-1. I'm a big fan of Brentford. I think this is a team that obviously don't have Ivan Toney, but I thought they looked good against Tottenham, caused them a lot of problems. So I will go with Brentford on this one.
Both teams coincidentally missing their star striker. Fulham with Mitrovic and obviously Brentford with Toney. I'm also going to agree. I'm going to go Brentford 3-1. I think they still looked really good against Tottenham, really compact, and they were also threatening. I think Fulham, I'm not a huge fan of them this year. I think they seemed a bit kind of out of sorts in preseason. They got a good win against Everton at home, but I think, or maybe it was away, I forgot.
It was at Everton. It's just a new stadium,
Everton.
so it looks different.
But
right, it is a new stadium, right? Am I wrong?
I don't think yet.
Is it not yet?
No, I don't think so. But I'm going to go Brentford 3-1.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a 1-1 draw. I think these teams will finish very similarly in the Prem. We have 11 teams, I think, that could get relegated this season. These two are 2 of them. I don't think they will get relegated. I think these 2 are the 2 teams that are just on the bubble outside our top 9, because we've got 9 clear favorites this season. These 2 are on the bubble outside there.
Yeah.
Moving on, we've got Liverpool hosting Bournemouth, the famous 9-0 from last season.
And we were talking about this before we started the show. I actually think Bournemouth are a very good team. You got Tyler Adams, Kirkez. You have obviously new outside backs. New manager. I think Liverpool will take it. I would say 3-0. I don't even know. Liverpool just defensively, I think, are going to let in. It's still a problem until we get a 6, so maybe 3-1. But I do think Liverpool will take this game handedly. I would hope.
I think Liverpool actually have trouble with Bournemouth, but I think they'll find a way. They're too much to handle attacking for Bournemouth. I'll say 2-1 Liverpool.
I'm a mix between the 2. I think they will have a little bit of trouble defensively, but this will be enough of a back and forth game that Liverpool will get their chances and they will score their goals with Salah, Diaz, Jota, Nunez. They're going to get too many chances not to score. For me, at Anfield, this is a 4-1 Liverpool win. It shouldn't be a super competitive game.
Yeah.
Moving to Wolves. Wolves host Brentford.
Wait, didn't we already say
Brentford?
Wolves host Brighton.
Brighton. Tough one. Brighton, good team. Obviously, handled Luton easily. Got that late penalty. This would be a very easy Brighton pick, but Wolves looked good. It's kind of the question of finishing. I think the one thing Brighton have been able to do the past couple seasons is they're a team who can score. So I'm going to take Brighton 2-0. I think Wolves wait still to get their first goal of the Premier League
This
season.
is going to be – I feel like this is a battle between two really good managers. I like Gary O'Neill. I really like Roberto De Zerbi. Brighton looked good their first game, albeit it was against Luton, but they looked good. I think Wolves look good too. I'm going to go 1-1 draw here.
I'm going to agree with Kian. It's a 2-0 win for Brighton for me. Wolves didn't look good enough scoring-wise, and Brighton looked so good scoring-wise. I really like Brighton for this season. It's 2-0 for me.
Yeah.
Moving to Tottenham hosting Manchester United. This is our marquee matchup of the week.
Big game.
At Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This is a big
I actually would say the next game is a marquee. City Newcastle, right? Or is that wrong?
I mean, we have two.
I think City Newcastle I'm more excited for, but yeah, this one is tough because I think United again got the win, but did they really? We obviously just talked about it. Didn't think they looked great. Tottenham, to me, I wasn't super as impressed as at least you, Surge. I think this will be the first draw. I predict. I think this will be a 1-1 game. I don't think either of these teams right now have the goal scoring ability to put up, at least against the two defenses they have, to put up 3, 4, even 2. So I'm gonna go 1-1 here.
I'm gonna go. This is, in my opinion, is gonna be the best game of the week. It's gonna be really. I think Tottenham are gonna control the game, but I think you're gonna see similar that United are gonna be able to post threats on the counter behind with Rashford. Maybe not with Anthony, because Anthony. I agree with Charlie. I do not rate Anthony, but I think it'll be a close game. I think there'll be some good. I think if Romero plays, it's a huge difference for Tottenham. I'm gonna assume he does play. I'm gonna say Tottenham win 3-2. It'll be. I really didn't like what I saw from United. I really liked what I saw from Tottenham, but I think United are a tough matchup. I'll give it to Tottenham close.
For me, I'm between two potential storylines in this game. I think either way, Tottenham will dominate this game. Possession-wise, movement, I think Tottenham will have the ball in United's half for most of the game. I'm stuck between Tottenham getting a late winner or they score at some point, and United just don't really look too good again, don't look great offensively. They're okay defensively. They only concede 1. It could be a 1-0 Tottenham win. What I'm going to go for here is Tottenham dominate this game, but with Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho, and Antony, if there's one thing they can do, it's going to be counterattack. And Tottenham looked, I said it earlier, so susceptible to the counterattack against Brentford. They don't play with fullbacks, so they only play with two defenders.
Although I thought Udogie was good when he was able to track back well.
They only play with 2 defenders. For me, Garnacho and Rashford will tear this team to pieces on counterattacks. I'm going to have a 2-0 United win. I think Tottenham need to switch something up a little bit tactically. It wasn't too far from where they need to be, but it just wasn't right. I don't think they can get big-time results with this tactical setup. Moving on, the Etihad.
Yeah,
hosting Newcastle. This one's going to be big.
Really
No De Bruyne in this game. So it's a really interesting one. I think this could really go either way.
I think these midfields are actually weirdly comparable.
Yeah,
I think Guimaraes. Oh yeah, you go.
I think Newcastle take this one. I think Newcastle win against City. I think City, again, like we said, obviously comfortably win the game against Burnley, but Burnley looked very good. Newcastle are a lot better than Burnley. I think Newcastle win this one. I think they win it. I think it'll be 3-2 Newcastle. I think it'll be obviously scoring. I think Haaland will score, but I think Newcastle take this one 3-2.
I think it's funny because everything in this game points to Newcastle being able to get a result. They looked probably like the best team in the Premier League last week.
Yep.
City lost De Bruyne. Didn't look really that great in the first half, although they were able to lock it down against Burnley. It's going to be really interesting, but at the same time, here's the most important thing. The Etihad has been a fortress for City the past few years. I think they're going to still be able to. I think Haaland is again going to be clinical. Tough to predict. I'm going to say City 2-1.
Yeah, I think at St. James Park, this is a totally different game. I think Newcastle is great at home. City's great at home, so this is a tough one. Both of these teams are hard to beat at their home turf. And I think De Bruyne going down, I was really tempted to say Newcastle in this one too. But this is Man City we're talking about. De Bruyne might be the best player on this team. But the amount of depth, the amount of pieces that Manchester City has that they can just throw in there, I wouldn't be surprised if Rico Lewis is the freaking De Bruyne replacement, because who knows? Pep just throws people in random spots. I think this will be a City win at the Etihad. It will be a great game. No doubt about it. Newcastle look fantastic. They've got, arguably, with the De Bruyne injury, the best midfield in the league with Joe Linton, Guimaraes, and Tonali. Guimaraes and Tonali just looked so good last weekend. I'm going to go with a 3-2 City win. I think at the Etihad. Wouldn't be surprised if Alvarez is the 10. I think that's probably what we saw last week also. I think Alvarez and Haaland as a strike pair they're so good. It's going to be hard for a Newcastle defense that didn't impress me last weekend. Botman, I think, is a really good player. I really rate him, but they weren't fantastic. Haaland will, he's going to score 2 or 3 goals. Like, it's just, and if he doesn't, someone else will. So I'm going to take City 3-2 in this one. Next up, we got Aston Villa hosting Everton. Both teams that lost last weekend.
Yeah, I like Aston Villa in this one. I think Villa bounced back. This is a 3-0 win for me. I think Aston Villa will be clinical in this one.
Yeah, 3-1 for me. I think Villa are Villa are a better team than Everton. Everton really disappointed how they started off their season. I think Everton could actually not be that bad this year.
I agree.
But I think Villa are a much superior team, and I think they'll win pretty comfortably.
Yep, agreed. I have a 2-0 Villa win.
Yeah.
Not much to be said. I think they're just a better side in this one. Last game of the weekend, because of that Luton Town versus Burnley postponed, West Ham hosting Chelsea at the London Stadium for a London derby.
This is another great game. I think this is kind of the 1B best game of the year. I think West Ham looked good. Obviously, Jared Bowen, screamer goal against Bournemouth. They let in one late. So I think defensive problems are still there for West Ham. That's why I think Chelsea will win this. I think Nicholas Jackson will get off the mark here and maybe get 1 or 2 goals.
Agreed.
So I think Chelsea will win this one. I think 3-0. I could see West Ham scoring, but I think Chelsea were pretty good defensively. I'm interested to see what they do in the back if they stay the same as they did against Liverpool, which I think they will. But again, it'll be interesting to see if we see another consistent Chelsea lineup going out, if we see what they did against Liverpool going out, or besides Caicedo, I guess. But I think they should kind of stick to what they did. Maybe, I guess, Charlie, you don't like Sterling, so maybe they put Mudryk there, but I think Chelsea will win this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chelsea, you're going to see a lot more of the attacking stuff that we saw in preseason with Pochettino, because obviously he saw Liverpool's lineup. He wanted to play more defensive and hit them on the counter. This year you're going to see Chelsea really control, especially now with Caicedo joining. I think, Chelsea will win 2-0 pretty comfortably. I think they'll be really secure as well.
For me, this is a 3-1 Chelsea win. I think they're just going to be the clear better team. Still not sure. Like, we're going to have defensive issues. Last year, everyone said our defense was, still pretty good, but I actually think it wasn't very good at all. Robert Sanchez, for me, didn't look good against Liverpool.
Yeah, he was
he looked kind of stupid on Salah's offside goal. He didn't get down quick enough for Diaz's goal.
Yeah, it was weird. His dive, he dove like he didn't know how to dive against Diaz's goal.
Giving away that ball also where Nunez
so
could have scored. That was...
I think West Ham could score. I think they could not score, but I think this will be a relatively comfortable Chelsea win.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, there it is. Thank you all for watching and listening. Kean McDermott, Charlie Nadell, Serge Kadali. Make sure you guys stay tuned for our podcast coming up. We'll be posting clips on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, so make sure you're following us all over there. And we thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Sorry, we have one more game.
Oh, do we?
Crystal Palace Arsenal.
I was going to say.
Sorry,
excuse me.
Palace host Arsenal. I think this will be a unanimous one.
Arsenal.
I think Arsenal in a 2 or 3-0 win.
And that will wrap it up. Thank you all so much for watching. As I said, do everything I said before that pick. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.